I was sent to kill him. I had done it before, many times. I felt nothing, no guilt, no fear. I walked into that church with a gun in my pocket and murder in my heart. I found him praying alone. I raised my weapon. I aimed at his head. And then something happened, something I still cannot explain. My finger wouldn't move. And he turned around and smiled at me. My name doesn't matter. I've had many names over the years. None of them were real. What matters is what I was and what I became. I grew up in Sicily, in a village where the law meant nothing and blood meant everything. My father was a violent man. He beat my mother. He beat me. He beat anyone who crossed him. He taught me how to fight before I could read. He taught me how to kill before I was a man. In this world, he said, you are either the hunter or the hunted. There is no middle ground. There is no mercy. Kill or be killed, that's the only truth. I believed him. I chose to be the hunter. My first kill was when I was 17. A man who owed money to someone powerful. I remember his face, his fear, his begging. I felt nothing. After that, it became easier. Each kill made the next one simpler. By the time I was 20, I had blood on my hands. By 25, I had stopped counting. By 30, I was one of the most feared men in southern Italy. I worked for powerful men, men who paid well and asked no questions, politicians, businessmen, crime bosses. They all needed someone like me. I was their shadow, their weapon, their solution. I did what they told me to do, and I never hesitated. I had no faith. God was a story for the weak, for women and children, for people who couldn't face the truth that life was cruel, the truth that only the strong survived, the truth that there was no heaven, no hell, just this world, just this life. I believed in nothing, nothing but the weight of the gun in my hand, nothing but the money in my pocket, nothing but my own survival. I never married. I never had children. How could I? What kind of father would I be? I lived alone. I worked alone. I trusted no one. That was my life for 30 years. Empty, cold, meaningless, but I didn't care. Or at least, I told myself I didn't care. In 1958, I received a job, a different kind of job. My employer was a wealthy man, a man with connections to the highest levels of power. He wore expensive suits. He smoked Cuban cigars. He had a problem, a priest who was becoming too famous, too influential. People were calling him a saint. People were saying he could read minds, that he knew your sins before you spoke them. And some of those minds belonged to powerful men, men with secrets they didn't want exposed, men who had done terrible things, men who feared what this priest might know. His name is Padre Pio, my employer said. He lives in a monastery in San Giovanni Rotondo. People come from all over the world to confess to him. Some of my associates are nervous. They say he knows things, impossible things. He looked at me with cold eyes. Kill him. Make it look like an accident or a robbery. I don't care how. Just make sure he's dead. And make sure no one ever suspects. I took the money. I took the job. I didn't ask why. I never did. A target was a target. Priest or politician, it made no difference to me. I traveled to San Giovanni Rotondo in the fall of 1958. The journey took 2 days. By train, then by bus, then on foot through dusty roads. It was a small, forgotten town. Nothing special, just another poor village in southern Italy. But it was filled with people, thousands of people, from all over Italy, from all over Europe. Some came in wheelchairs, some came on stretchers, some came with children, Some came alone, all there to see one man. I didn't understand it. What could one priest offer that was worth such a journey? I had seen priests before. They were just men. Weak men. Men who hid behind robes and rituals. This one would be no different. I spent a week watching him, learning his routine. He woke up before dawn, every single day. He celebrated Mass at 5 in the morning. He heard confessions for 12, sometimes 15 hours. People waited in line for days just to speak to him. He never left the monastery. He was always surrounded by people, priests, nuns, pilgrims, guards. Getting close to him would be difficult, but not impossible. I noticed something. Late at night, after everyone was gone, he would pray alone in the church. Just him, no guards, no witnesses. That was my opportunity. On the 7th night, I made my move. It was past midnight. The town was silent. The church was dark. I waited until the last person left. I slipped inside through a side door. The lock was old, easy to pick. My gun was loaded. My hands were steady. I had done this 100 times before. One bullet, one target, one job. Simple. The church was dark. Only a few candles were burning near the altar. The shadows danced on the walls. I could smell incense, old wood, something else, something I couldn't identify. I saw him at the altar, kneeling, praying, his back to me. He was wearing a brown robe. His head was bowed. He was completely alone, completely vulnerable, perfect. I moved silently. Years of practice, years of killing. My footsteps made no sound on the stone floor. Step by step, I approached. I positioned myself behind a pillar, 20 feet away, clear line of sight. I raised my gun. I aimed at the back of his head. I steadied my breath. One squeeze. That's all it would take. And then I tried to pull the trigger. Nothing happened. My finger wouldn't move. It was like my hand wasn't mine anymore, like something had grabbed it, frozen it. I tried again, harder. Nothing. I used all my strength. Nothing. I looked at my hand. It was frozen, not shaking, not trembling, just frozen, like something was holding it in place. Something invisible, something powerful. I had never experienced anything like it. And then he spoke, without turning around, without looking at me. "You can put that down now." His voice was calm, gentle, like he was talking to a child, like he wasn't facing death. "I know why you're here. I've been expecting you." I don't know how to describe what I felt. Fear, real fear, for the first time in my life. True, absolute terror. This man hadn't turned around. He hadn't seen me. He was facing the altar, but he knew I was there. He knew I had a gun. He knew I had come to kill him. He knew everything. How? How was that possible? He stood up slowly. His movements were calm, unhurried, like he had all the time in the world. He turned to face me, and when I saw his eyes, I dropped the gun. I didn't mean to. My hand just opened, like it wasn't my hand anymore, and the gun fell to the stone floor with a loud clatter. The sound echoed through the empty church. His eyes were not angry. They were not scared. They were sad, deeply, terribly sad, but not for himself. He wasn't afraid of death. He was sad for me, for what I had become, for what I had done. He walked toward me, slowly, calmly. His sandals scraped against the stone. I should have run. I should have picked up the gun, but I couldn't move. I was frozen in place, like my entire body had betrayed me, like something greater than me was holding me there. He stopped in front of me, close enough to touch. I could see his face clearly now, the beard, the tired eyes, the lines of age, and his hands. They were wrapped in bandages stained with something dark. Blood. I could smell it. mixed with something else, flowers like roses. He looked into my eyes, and I felt naked, like he was seeing everything, every kill, every victim, every lie, every dark thought I had ever had, everything I had buried, everything I had hidden. He saw it all, and then he said something that broke me. I know what you've done, all of it, every life you've taken, every soul you've destroyed, every mother who lost a son because of you, every child who lost a father. My heart stopped. No one knew. No one could know. But he knew. But I also know what you could become if you choose. I fell to my knees. I don't know why. I had never knelt before anyone, not to kings, not to bosses, not to God. Pride was all I had. But I knelt before this priest, and something inside me shattered. 30 years of walls, 30 years of coldness, 30 years of pretending I felt nothing. It all broke apart. Tears came for the first time in decades. I didn't even know I could still cry. I thought that part of me was dead, but the tears came like a flood. All the blood, all the death, all the darkness, all the faces of the men I had killed. It all came pouring out. He placed his hand on my head. His touch was warm, gentle. I could feel the bandages on his palms, the wounds beneath them, and I could smell that strange scent again, like flowers, like blood, like something holy, something not of this world. "Do you want to be free?" he asked. I couldn't speak. My voice was gone. I just nodded. "Then confess. Tell me everything, and let it go." That night I confessed. For hours I told him every kill, every victim, every sin. I told him things I had never told anyone, things I had buried so deep I had forgotten them. The first man I killed, the fear in his eyes, the family man who begged for his children, the young boy who was in the wrong place at the wrong time, all of them, every single one. And he listened, without judgment, without disgust, without interrupting, just listened. When I finished, the sun was rising. Golden light was streaming through the church windows. I had been talking all night. My voice was raw. My eyes were swollen. My body was exhausted. But I felt light, like something had been lifted off my shoulders, something that had been crushing me for 30 years, a weight I didn't even know I was carrying. He gave me absolution. He told me my sins were forgiven. I didn't believe it. How could they be? But he looked at me with those eyes, those sad, knowing eyes, and he said, "God's mercy is greater than any sin, even yours. But forgiveness is just the beginning. You must spend the rest of your life making amends, not because you have to, but because you want to." I asked him how. How could I make amends for so much death? He smiled, a small, gentle smile. "You'll know. When the time comes, you'll know. Now go and sin no more." I left San Giovanni Rotondo that morning. I walked out of that church as a different man. I never went back to my employer. I never collected the rest of my payment. I never killed again. I disappeared. I left Italy. I left Europe. I started a new life, a life of service, a life of atonement. For the next 40 years, I worked in silence. I helped people who had no one, refugees, orphans, the poor, the forgotten. I protected those who were hunted. I saved lives instead of taking them. I did everything I could to balance the scales, not because it could erase what I had done. Nothing could erase that, but because it was the only way I could live with myself, the only way I could honor what Padre Pio had given me, a second chance. I followed Padre Pio's story from a distance. I read about his miracles, his healings, his visions. I heard about the millions who came to see him, The church investigated him, doubted him, but the people believed, and in 1968 I heard that he had died. I wept, for the first time since that night in the church. The only man who had ever shown me mercy, the only man who had seen my darkness and not looked away. Gone, but his word stayed with me every single day. I know what you could become if you choose. I chose. I chose to become something different, something better, something worthy of the mercy I had been shown. I am an old man now, 91 years old. I have lived longer than I ever expected, longer than I deserved, and every day I wake up grateful, not for my life, but for that night when I walked into a church to kill a saint, and walked out as someone new. People ask me if I believe in God. I tell them I didn't, not before that night. But when I looked into Padre Pio's eyes, I saw something that couldn't be human, something that knew me completely, something that forgave me completely. And if that's not God, I don't know what is. I don't expect forgiveness from the world. I don't expect forgiveness from the families of my victims. I carry their faces with me every day. I always will, until the day I die. But Padre Pio showed me something I never thought possible, that even the darkest soul can find light, that even the worst sinner can be redeemed, not by erasing the past, but by choosing a different future. I was an assassin, a killer, a man with no soul, a man who believed in nothing. But one night I met a priest who couldn't be killed, not because he was protected by guards, not because he fought back, but because something far more powerful protected him, something I couldn't see, but I could feel, and that same power saved me. My name doesn't matter, but my story does, because if someone like me can change, anyone can.